Well, let's dive in. Question number one, just tell us about why you got into coaching and what values guide your approach with clients.
This is such a good question. So, I got into coaching because I experienced firsthand the power of someone guiding me with compassion and clarity and vision. I came from the medical world, and my value system is foundational on empathy, authenticity, and a real deep commitment to help my patients. And I lost 5 leaders to cancer when I was managing their short term disability claim. And I landed up in hospice with them at the end of life. And I promised them that I would take my skills out of the medical world and I would do something with them. And that's when my coach at the time guided me and said, "What are you going to do with this gift?" And I didn't see it in that light at that time. And I had a practice to close. I had 30 patients and families that I had to get looked after. And I had 4 staff who I had to help find alternate jobs, and grieved through the whole process because I'd had my practice since I was 24. And this was 16 years ago now. And then I became a coach and got certified, and that was 15 years ago. And I talk about the 5 people that passed away because I want to keep their legacy alive, but I want to show that sometimes our direction in life can change. And my coach helped me realize that I had been coaching these huge medical multidisciplinary teams, and I didn't see the coaching element within my medical role. And I made a promise for the rest of my life to only coach leaders at a high level, and that they don't get stressed, they don't get sick, they don't become palliative. And I haven't lost anybody in 15 years.
Love that. Deb, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, like think about all of the issues that we have sometimes. It's like sometimes those are things that are happening off the court that are impacting on court performance. And, just providing kind of well-rounded, holistic kind of approach is really, really important. I'm glad that you recognize that and treat your clients with empathy. So
Absolutely.
that's huge. Real leadership at the end of the day, right? Question number two, briefly share a story of a challenging client experience. How did you help them overcome obstacles and achieve their goals?
Yeah, I had to sit and dig for this because there's many, Kevin. Okay, I had a CEO client who was struggling greatly with imposter syndrome, and he received some really harsh critical feedback from his board, and they were questioning his ability to lead, and they were close to asking him to step down. It was really pivotal. So we went through some reflective exercises. I helped him uncover some intrinsic strengths that he didn't feel had a place of business acumen. I helped him reframe the narrative. And then we developed what I like to call a roadmap to address the feedback. 360 feedback is always hard because it's like when you take it, it's like talking to a 911 operator because you take the assessment and then you never get to know the outcome. And then an external trusted partner like me is brought in by the board or someone else to deliver that. And it needs to be done in a heart centered, empathetic, compassionate way. So I focused on heart centered strategies because that's my coaching practice. And we practiced open communication. We talked about humility and that it does have a foundational place in business acumen. I helped him rebuild trust with the board, with his employees. And ultimately, it led to organizational success, and people saw a real difference in him. So, the Coles Notes version was I helped him discover the inner leader, and that you can still be kind and assertive, and you don't have to be aggressive to meet metrics, and at the same time, develop a healthy, vital culture and make it, organizational wide so that it's received well by everybody. And they kept them, and they're still a customer to this day, actually.
Love that. Yeah, that's a big breakthrough. And it's interesting. We just had a forum this morning and one of the members was pitching. and the feedback he got was pretty direct, and that's he put himself in a very vulnerable position by presenting and got a lot of direct feedback. And so I can imagine, what this person experienced in their real life board situation and how that can make them feel. And so the ability to kind of turn that around is definitely a breakthrough. So thank you for sharing that. Question number 3 for you, Deb. Describe your coaching program, format, or service, and share why CEOs come to you.
So my background in school is neuroscience, and I was a neurotrauma case manager for 20 years. So I looked after the broken, spinal cord injury, brain injury, like heavy injury, Kevin. And one of the biggest things in medicine, and you know this probably from going to a nurse practitioner or a doctor yourself, if you don't have trust and rapport, there's not going to be an open relationship. And I believe that the sector doesn't matter. We have to develop trust and rapport in every relationship, whether it's in our life or in leadership. So my coaching program is based on a neuroscience assessment. And I love to stay in my wheelhouse within neuroscience of behavior. So CEOs come to me because I can deep dive in their deductive reasoning. So I'm able to show them how they think intrinsically, extrinsically, and systemically, and where it shows up in their life and in their leadership. So the ROI, it's quick, it's easy, and data never lies. A lot of CEOs seek me out because I enjoy bridging the gap between operational success and showing them heart-centered leadership, which only helps foster and create a culture of both trust and high performance. And a lot of clients often say to me that I help them gain clarity, I help them unlock potential they didn't know they had. And I always put great emphasis on fostering alignment between their values and what the organizational goals are. So again, bringing that heart-centered leadership and the principles that are within that type of leadership within business acumen to show them that it can have a presence in their knowledge, skills, and abilities. And it doesn't make them weak. It makes them inclusive, and it makes them assertive and allows them to be at that C-suite level, but still remain heart-centered and approachable.
Like that. And it's such a difficult balance to strike sometimes, especially during those difficult moments like you share, with letting people go and, trying to make the right decision for the longevity of the company. So yeah, it's
And I didn't answer your question. From a modality perspective, I primarily do one-on-one, but sometimes I am asked to come in and do work with the executive leadership team. And I love to keep it informal so it's approachable because I'm that external trusted partner coming in. And I always like to call it a fireside chat. And I always ask a question of the team before I come so then I know what I'm walking into. I do intermittent group coaching, and I have done some leadership retreats for female executives. And I've focused on self-care and really pulled in my background of medical rehab just because a lot of females, I see it more in females, again, only from my vantage point of burnout, just because many females wear several hats if they're married and kids or aging parents or all the things that we take on as women. And I haven't done any of that work since right before COVID.
got it. Okay. Well, thanks for expanding on that as well. So just so I'm clear, there's one-on-one, but then there's some type of, is it a group facilitation?
I do group facilitation, team building. I'm usually brought in from a C-suite to do change management initiatives. I wrote a book, so I do a lot of fireside chat and bring my book's called The Heart-Centered Leadership Playbook. I come in with my book. It was published a year ago, and it's made a nice ripple effect globally with my clients. It's just, it's really debunking the myth that the sector matters. I'm in the people business and I work in 6 different countries. I coach from manager level all the way up to C-suite. And the sector really doesn't matter, Kevin, because I'm hearing the same problems. The level doesn't matter, the sector doesn't matter. Um, and that's so as of 2024, I've probably done intermittent group coaching, I'm going to say, with three large corporations, but I'm primarily one to one with the C suites.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. And where do you so you get most of these clients mostly from your book or from word of mouth referrals?
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of all of the above. You're gonna laugh. I've been in business for 34 years. I don't even have a CRM.
Right, right. Yeah, just yeah. You know what? I'm a full believer of just like there's nothing better than just a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet and just email.
Yeah,
It's
I work for a few large global organizations and I work deep and wide. I also do some fractional work as a chief heart officer when I'm brought in after an M&A. And we're merging two work cultures, two work families, that blended culture, and I really enjoy that as well. And again, I'm an external trusted partner.
got it. Okay, cool. I get the positioning and kind of how you operate now. This next part of the questionnaire is really focused on situations.
Sure.
It kind of example is just like if a lot of basketball teams, let's say, go practice, hey, it's 2 minutes on the clock, you're down by five, two timeouts. So it just kind of helps us understand for these specific situations, how would you navigate those times? And these are all examples from our members at the Real Leaders community. So all CEOs dealing with these issues that we've heard, and they're actual examples. So first one is around investor partner relations, could be just equity relations in general. Um, I'm a startup with 7 employees building a transformative robotics company to reduce food waste. And I'm feeling apprehensive because investors are on me about returns, and I don't want to cut expenses or people because it conflicts with my values and the culture I'm trying to build. Have you experienced something similar, and what did you do?
So, startup CEOs often face that tension between investor demands and their own personal values. It's a ping pong going on in their mind and heart. I had a client in the US in a similar position, and she didn't want to compromise her team or their mission that they had set out. So we decided to develop a communication strategy, again, heart centered, and I had them focus on the long term value creation while proposing some alternative solutions. So we talked about things like phased growth targets, operational efficiencies, and neither of those would involve layoffs. I had them lean in with transparent dialogue and standing firm, that assertive leadership in their values. And this essentially strengthened both investor trust and preserve the company culture. So again, it was a communication piece looking at what was being asked, what was already started, and it came around. It was communication. I felt like a mediator instead of a coach, but again, just some transferable skills. And again, when that transparent dialogue happened, and sometimes you have to stand firm in your values. And sometimes that's what the stakeholders and investors want to see. Like, is this just words on paper, or are you really going to encompass, these words and make it your behavior, which again is my favorite thing to challenge clients on. And it landed up being a win-win. And that was in the food sector. And yeah, it worked out well.
Interesting. I like that. Getting into that. Question number two, funding. I'm a 20-year seasoned entrepreneur looking to start a new brand off the back of my prior one to challenge Etsy. That's the goal here. And I'm seeking funding in a tight lending market. In your experience, how might I raise capital now?
This is the fun one, especially post COVID. So I still feel like we're in a tight lending market, but this is where someone with this request has to be super creative and really leverage their network. Those are two big key factors. So, one of my clients diversified their funding strategy. He combined crowdfunding campaigns, partnership. He also aligned with some other brands similar in nature. And we took this approach, and this was kind of our mission driven to approach the investors. So, again, communication. I had him clearly articulate his vision, like from the bottom of his heart, with his why being so verbally expressive. It was a given. That helped identify mutual value for both parties. He secured capital and he didn't compromise any equity or his vision again. And I'd suggest that this person you're talking about, have them focus on what their unique differentiation is from Etsy, and pitch it to investors, because if you share the vision and you have the passion and you've got the strategy, that's what they want to see. I don't know what you have. I don't know if you're in the US, or I'm in Canada, and we have a show called Dragon's Den. And there's people that have been on there. It's kind of like your Shark Tank, I think.
Right.
It's the passion, and being able to have those investors ask you a question and you stand so firm in the answer that you're not wavering. This is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I believe. And it just happens. But you have to have it with conviction, because if you're kind of gallywagging and your behavior doesn't match your verbal expression, people pick up on that energy. Like, you have to be so confident. And yeah, it worked out really well for this guy. And you know what? You can't get scared by the Etsy's of the world. I think of the music world. Every time we think, there's not going to be a new artist, I look at the young Billie Eilish, I look at Jelly Roll, and you look at their conviction and they're doing great. You know what I mean? It's the Taylor Swift haters. Like, that girl she's got branding and marketing down to an infinite touch,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. No, I like what you're saying about conviction as well. Speaking from the truth, confidence. So helping your clients get super clear on the vision, obviously really important.
They have to, and we practice. Like, this isn't a one and done. It's like a playbook. And I say to them, I'm the investor. Convince me to see your belief in your vision. Like, bring me there. And this is where their thought leadership and their vision, this is like their chance at the Oscars to give the best performance. And that's what I say to them. You have one chance for me to, give you X amount of percent or whatever money. And I sit and I look at them, and I'm straight faced, and we practice and we practice, and we look at verbal expression. We look at all nonverbal expression, their body language, their eyes. Are they talking with their hands? Are they smiling? Is there emotion? Does their tone and pitch change with their voice? We practice it ad nauseum to the point where they're like, okay, Deb, I got it. And I'll say, I would work with you. This is why I would work with you. This is what you need to do when you're really doing the presentation. It's like anything else. Like, you can't just show up and not be prepared.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. I can see your passion coming through as well.
Oh, you know what? We're here one time, Kevin. Like, why waste it, right?
Absolutely. No, hey, that's why a lot of entrepreneurs get into the business in the first place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, leadership and alignment. I'm a CEO of a mid-sized local bank with 50 employees, and I can't quite get my leadership team on board with the vision and the direction we have as a company. What should I do to build alignment?
So when I see that alignment is missing, it's often due again to that disconnect in either communication or shared purpose. So if I was guiding, this is a bank, you said? If I was guiding a bank CEO through this challenge, I would definitely start by initiating some leadership workshops that were tied to the company's vision because it's easy for people to sway away from that if it's not consistently in the forefront of the leadership they're receiving. And when you can get your leaders to anchor back to the company's mission, the person or leader that you're facilitating to, the alignment comes between the company vision and the person's values. And that's usually where the misalignment happens. So, a couple of tools that I would use for this would be feedback loops, regular alignment check ins, and that would primarily be to ensure that everyone is feeling heard, seen, valued, validated, and connected to the mission of the bank. And then step back to ensure that they're fostering both cohesion and momentum. That would be my
I like that. Yeah, really, really important that employees are feeling like they're being heard in the company as well. Heard, seen, valued.
especially today.
Yeah, I like how you got that process for that. Okay, awesome. Moving on, succession and exits. I'm a local certified B Corp swim school looking to plan my succession as a founder CEO and weighing my options between an ESOP, employee owned trust, hiring a new CEO, or selling. I want to make sure it's aligned with my values and culture. Have you experienced this before, and how might I go about this process?
Yeah, I seem to land on this with family businesses, which is really interesting because I have my coaching practice, and then my husband also is in a family business. The first thing I'm going to say, Kevin, is that succession planning is deeply personal. So if a client's considering an ESOP, you should examine both financial, operational, and also cultural impact, just off the top of my brain. We need to look at a founder transitioning plan to an employee owned trust. And then you want to ensure that you're keeping the legacy and the values as they're embedded into this new structure. Because I see that never in the forefront because I find the metrics and the systemic parts of business acumen get taken care of. That value system, if it's not embedded into the new structure for anybody coming in to take over, that's a red flag. And that's just like an accident waiting to happen. So I think in summary, the key for that is understanding what you value most on your own as the owner, control, legacy, financial return, and then aligning all of those processes with the priorities within the structure of decision making. And again, it's methodical and slow, and it can't be rushed because it's so personal. And when there's family involved, it's even funner because nepotism is alive and well, and it's you have to be even more heart-centered and tread lightly, but it has to be a succession and exits have to be taken methodically, slowly. Progression will happen, but you have to be so mindful and so careful because you're not just moving assets and all the business systematic, financial, etc. You're moving people and you're leaving people. And that has to be in the forefront of all the planning and all the organization within any type of succession or exit.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can tell, a lot of our leaders are very people-centric leaders. So this is a difficult decision they're all weighing on, and they try to prioritize.
Yeah, it's a very difficult decision, and plus, they're getting older, and that has a whole other, element of emotion attached to it as well.
It's interesting too. I like this. I like this a lot. Okay, personal matters. Deb, I'm a CEO of a 400 employee company, and I'm about to have a meeting, I said, with my parents and my wife, who have been arguing as of late. how might I approach this meeting? Of course, personal matters, as we talked about earlier in this meeting, very important to UCS.
Well, from my medical background, and I'm trained in grief and bereavement, managing family dynamics requires two things. It requires a large amount of empathy and clear, concise boundaries. So, for your CEO who's navigating some similar challenges, he can use his transferable skills and bring or recommend some structure with some shared intentions to the meeting. He could be very forthright by acknowledging everyone's emotions, but still kind and assertive to stay focused on the common goals. And heart centered principles like active listening, creating a safe space, allowing open dialogue so everyone has a voice. This will help your client mediate effectively while protecting the personal relationships and the emotional well being of all the family involved.
Right. Could you expand a little bit more on boundaries? I know you had mentioned that earlier.
It's very difficult sometimes when you're handling family dynamics and somebody comes in that might have a leadership role, like a CEO. And the family will say, well, we don't want, Kevin CEO. We just want Kevin to show up. So the boundaries are, I'm here as Kevin. I am Kevin, Kevin the son, Kevin the brother, Kevin the grandson, the uncle, whatever your relationship is. What I'm asking for is that I can use my expertise and transferable skills to have the boundaries so we can have an effective meeting, so everyone's feeling heard, seen, valued, validated. And you stay within those boundaries so that nobody gets hurt. And again, the number one goal is fostering the psychological safe space and the emotional well-being of all the family members. But your CEO is going to use his C-suite level skills within a family dynamic, whatever it may be. And that's the boundary, that it's not Kevin the CEO. It's just Kevin CEO is bringing his brilliance from his leadership experience because he thinks it'll help the family.
Interesting. Interesting. Huh. Well,
I get that a lot with my nieces and nephews and my kids, and they're like, can we just have like Deb Crowe the mom? And I'm like, but you're asking me like a career question. And I'm like, do you want me to mom coach it or Deb Crowe coach it? And it's so funny because you want to be the mom, the loving mom, or the aunt or the sister, but they're really asking you professional questions about their career or a situation. Or so that's a really good question because you probably take your skills in your private life. And I always just have to qualify it and say, can I put my coaching hat on as I answer this as your mom? And they're like, well, I guess. So we always have a laugh at it because I'm like, who do you want me to have show up here? Can I bring the coach? Can I bring the sister? And it's just fun, but it gives them comfort knowing that you have those skills and you're approachable. But I always add some candor and humor to say, can the coach come? And I think when you add in that candor and humor, it kind of lightens the family dynamics and what's going on.
interesting. Yeah, I like how you're just speaking from your experience as well. It's really helpful. And yeah, I mean, is this something obviously I can relate to, anyone can relate to. And navigating that's really, really difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs. Like their identity is so wrapped into the business. And so trying to discern that is challenging. Okay, Deb, we're at the home stretch here. Beliefs and final arguments. So this is the question we actually get a lot. What do you believe the role of a CEO is and why?
Yeah, I like this question.
We get that from CEOs.
Yeah, I think the role, I'm going to say I know that the role of a CEO is to be the visionary and also the custodian of their organizational values. So a CEO should come from a self-directed talent perspective with inspiring, aligning, empowering their teams, but always ensuring that the mission of their company resonates at every single level, not just of the executive leadership team. Because when it's only at the top like that, that's that top bottom approach. And that has huge negative ripple effects on the culture. Whereas when it's shared at all levels, that just fosters a beautiful, healthy, vital culture. And I think all CEOs should lead with conviction and courage and humility and, of course, heart centered leadership, because that is the secret sauce and equation to fostering both trust and collaboration.
Well said. Okay, last question. Why do you believe you should be named a top executive coach in your region?
I believe that I combine the expertise in both business strategy with heart centered leadership principles to the point where I wrote a book about it. And I find that I do well empowering CEOs to lead with not only their minds, but also their hearts. And I help them connect that. And it's a long journey for many. And I think my ability to help leaders navigate complex challenges, align their values with their actions, and create sustainable success makes me uniquely qualified.
Deb, pleasure to meet you today. Thank you so much for just pitching your case to be a top executive coach. Kind of next steps from here is we're doing interviews all throughout November, all throughout December, and we hope to have an update for everyone on January 8th. You're already going to be receiving a toolkit, which will kind of have some graphics you can use to post and position yourself as a top executive coach of 2025. So we'll be supporting you there. Anyway, if you want to access the magazine of Simon Sinek, our most recent issue, it's online. I can send you a link. Well, reading past the how we position the top executive coaches in there.
Perfect.
Other than that, any other questions that I could be of
No, it was really nice to meet you. It was a fun experience. Where are you located?
good? San Diego, California.
Oh, you're in California.
Yes.
Well, I'm in Canada. So hopefully you get up here one day.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so I went to Vancouver, BC, multiple
Oh,
times.
nice. Vancouver's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good, nice little town. But speaking of San Diego, as I mentioned earlier, if you are selected as a finalist, you will get recognition at Real Leaders Unite. It's like our flagship event for what we call the Impact Awards.
Okay.
So definitely take a look at that because we're gonna
I will. What is it?
It's February 3 and 4.
Okay.
It's at the Lodge at Torrey Pines, like at the AAA 5 Diamond rated resort. Really nice resort, overlooks the ocean. So
Okay,
um,
perfect.
really high end event.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks so much. I enjoyed chatting with you.
Same here, Deb. Take care, okay?
Take care, Kevin. Bye.
Bye.